Well, hello everyone. I'm Lisa Duckworth. I am actually came here all the way from Salt Lake City, Utah. Woohoo. The weather wasn't much different, I'll tell you that. And so I'm really happy to be here today to talk to you about the 15 things a veteran wants you to know. And the thing that's really fun about this course is that as every veteran is unique and dynamic. So I'll share a little bit about my experiences and my story, but you could have another veteran walk in here and their story would be completely different. However, the 15 things we want you to know do to generally be all in common. And so I guess by show of hands or response, who here has ever served in the military or your spouse or someone you're close to? Definitely. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. So that helps that, you may have some familiarity, but if you don't, the thing that's really nice about this is that this is going to help you gain some cultural competencies and understandings on what kind of questions you can talk to veterans about. They can't hear me. Oh, okay. I'm a hand talker though. No, no. Okay, my regrets. So this is a really great course for you. A lot of times people may know of the military or they've Hollywood hearsay and headlines have filled in the blanks for a lot of people. And so this is our effort to help bridge that gap. So without that said, oh, and then I did say we flew from Salt Lake City. However, I grew up in the Dallas Fort Worth area. So that's my disclaimer when I start to twang. Okay. Can you hear me now? Yay, technology. Okay, just a quick recap because I don't know what you did here. So flew in from Salt Lake, originally from Texas, and had a lot of influence from my grandfather growing up. He, in many ways, was the father figure in my life for a long time. And so whenever it came to anything military, he would just like, Lisa, don't let the flag fall on the ground. And I was like a little kid going, what? You know, and he would say, no, you got to have the respect and honor the traditions. And so whenever I was, I life was challenging, I guess you'd say. My mom was a single mom for a while. My dad was around for a little bit. Let's see. I'm trying to switch the slide, so I'm kind of. So this is my mom. This is my nod to my mom. I lost my mom unexpectedly a little less than a year ago, and so I'm always like, oh, I gotta do the nod to my mom because she was such a great influence on my life, and I miss her so much. She is what I call, so my grandpa is one of my favorite World War II veterans and Korean veterans. And then my mom is what I would call my favorite military brat, or what they often call them, they're the dependents of people that have been in the military. The newer term that they're starting to use is called dandelions, because the families travel with them and they're there serving just as much in a different way and making sacrifices. So my mom was born in Anchorage, Alaska, actually just a little bit before it became a state. And so, and you could see as she was a strikingly beautiful woman, yeah. And she was a teen in 1972, and we'll just say that, that my story kind of started like the alternate ending of Grease, where mom was pregnant at 15 with me. And so we grew up together in many ways. So, I got to be, I was getting close to finishing high school and I was like, what do I do with my life? I just kind of felt like there was no money for college. I didn't know what to do. I talked to my grandfather. I ran it by my mom because she just thought, oh, what kind of crazy thing are you going to do now? But I after consulting my grandfather, mainly, I chose to join the Army. And I chose to join the Army because at that time, and I believe it's still the same thing, is that whenever you join the Army, you sign a contract for X number of years, and you know exactly what kind of job you're going to have. In other branches, and we'll talk about that a little more later, is that you'll go into a field. And so you'll have an idea of what you could be doing related to a certain skill set, but there's no guarantee that you'll actually do something you might like. And for me, it was very important for me to learn some skills. And so that first picture there, the black and white one, it's actually, they gave me a little yearbook. That's my basic training picture. That's little 20-year-old Lisa. And right above that is a picture of me and my favorite chaplain. And I was a chaplain's assistant in the military. And so I had uh, p- a unique role where I was able to not only be there to help my fellow military members, but I was also very much ingrained with the families. And it's still, I guess you can kind of say it's still ingrained in me. With the and this is the little preview of that's what I thought I would be doing. That's kind of their fancy job description of what I did. And you can see there, that's a picture of me with my favorite chaplain. His name is Chaplain. He was a captain at the time, Crisp. And believe me, I gave him a lot of grief about his name, and he gave it right back because I'm a Duckworth. And so we had a good time. In wartime, you serve as the chaplain's bodyguard because chaplains are not permitted to carry weapons because of the Geneva Convention agreement. And so, I used to always say, he's like, hey, he would call me his favorite bodyguard, and I used to call him my favorite holy man. And we even named our Humvee the Holy Roller. So it was a good time. And we still keep in touch. But he's South Carolina, I think. So, and this is a picture of my favorite veteran. He may look similar to somebody that's in the room. Uh, so whenever my husband Shane, I liked him so much when we met in the military that I had to marry him. We met at Fort Stewart, Georgia, and got married after he had completed his 4 years in the service. And so he got out of the military and was actually living back in Salt Lake. We had our long distance thing, and we just couldn't be apart anymore. And so we got married, and then our first duty station was Darmstadt, Germany. But he had the experience of being a dependent or a military spouse while I was still serving. And so he had a lot of fun. And he used to joke with whenever we would do our PT, or physical training. I guess there's so many acronyms. Oh my gosh. But anyway, our physical training, we would be running by and we would run by our apartment. He'd come out with his robe and his coffee and be like, stinks to be you. But little did he know that whenever he signed up for the Army and he accepted that as his job, that he was going to get so much more, right? So, you have anything you want to add? No. He's just like, oh gosh. So, since the military, I took advantage of several different programs. I actually am a graduate of the Veteran Affairs Vocational Rehab Program. I had some injuries and let's just say the military for women can be very challenging, especially in certain things. And I'm sure it's no surprise to many people. But since the military, I took advantage of the Voc Rehab program, and I first got my bachelor's degree at the University of Utah. So that's where you kind of see the U there. And then this is a little bit of my career path of work that I've done since then. I got my bachelor's degree in business management and worked many years as an HR business partner. I joke now that I'm a recovering HR business partner, serial volunteer, all that kind of stuff, because being in human resources during the pandemic and all that and all the civil unrest, it was like, I'm out of here. It was not good for anybody's mental health at that time. And so you can kind of see it goes the U, Headwaters, Employers Council, American Red Cross, Optum, Intermountain Health, Salt Lake City. I have WGU on there because I got my master's in management and leadership from that program, June of 2020. So I was like, God, I probably could have kept going. And then now you see there is that there's the Utah Patriot Partner symbol. And so I now work as the state of Utah's local veteran employer representative, and I'm overseeing a program called the Utah Patriot Partnership Program. And so what it does is it just works with different organizations that have an interest in training, developing, or employing members from the military community. And it's a network to basically say that, like, we've raised our hand, we pledged to give priority employment consideration, and I manage that among many other things. And then I've got the little duck there because we're kicking around. I did file for a duck an LLC, and so that's in the works now. Uh, and there's also, you've seen my bio, I believe, and in addition to the human resources and those type of duties, I also, as a serial volunteer, I call it the IDEA director now for the Utah Society of Human Resource Management. So I'm on the board of directors for that. I have this cool program called the Military Community Ambassador, which is where this whole presentation has come from. And it's in a partnership with USAA, PsychArmor, a whole bunch of really great organizations that are getting behind this to try to help make those meaningful connections in the communities. And then I'm also in DAV, Disabled American Veterans, American Legion. VFW, we're still trying to figure it out because they're like, it's a tricky one because you got to be part of a certain campaign. But if there's a will, there's a way. I'm pretty sure they'll get me too. So that was a little bit about me to kind of give you an idea, because as I go through the 15 things, I'm going to give you some examples of uh, things that I have experienced in my life, and that how to kind of help bring it home. Because I think it's one thing to just say, hey, I could say, hey, the military is a culture, but if you don't really understand, I think stories kind of and anecdotes often fill in those gaps. And so, as we know, like even in any kind of organization, like even, like when I think of the workplace, your workplace has a culture. The military obviously has a culture. And this is where I want to really help you, dispel the Hollywood hearsay and headlines that seem to be our education resource for so many things. And so PsychArmor did this, and they asked a lot of veterans, what do you want people that haven't been in the military to know? And so that's where this came from. And so those top answers are the ones that we're going to chat about. So, like with every relationship, it starts with a question. Curiosity and having a genuine interest in what somebody has to say can really go a long way. And so questions build credibility, but some questions can also make people uncomfortable. And so this will help you. And so it's often very good is just ask is, have you or your spouse ever served in the military? A lot of people that are served in the military or the veteran, I think a lot of people get the eligibility requirements of being a veteran with the Veteran Affairs Office confused with what it means just to be a veteran. And so a veteran is really anybody who served in the military at least one day, at least in my book. And then if we need to dig deeper, we do, because we're not looking at eligibility. We're just like, did you serve in the military? Okay, you mark the box. So we're going to start with number one. We are not all soldiers. However, I would call myself a soldier because I did serve in the military, in the Army. And is there anyone online? Oh, wait, we got to get somebody in the room. Who wants to take a chance or a spin at naming all six branches of the military? Dinner's on me if you can tell me the six branches. Yeah, you can put it in the Q&A. Yeah. Aha. Anyone? Did you? Okay. Oh, sorry. Yeah. I know I threw you off there. It can be a group effort if you like. Yeah.
Take a shot at it. Yep. Army,
Okay, good.
Navy, Air Force, Marines,
Mhm.
Coast Guard, Space Force.
Did you say Coast
I got the Coast Guard. Yeah.
Guard? Okay. Hello. Okay. Winner, winner. It's not chicken dinner, but I wanted you to have, so for those of you online, this is his dinner. Nice freeze dried, get the real military experience. These are the good ones, though. I did not bring the ones that they still issue to the military. So if you're, you need a little snack or just pour a little water in there and rehydrate that and you'll enjoy it. So yeah, so when you're asking somebody about their military service, it's often very good if you're that don't just assume everybody's a soldier and it's all just one big lump of people. It's actually there's different branches that have different functions. We're not going to go into that. That'll be something you can research on your own. But we'll talk a little bit more about the 15 things that veterans want you to know. And so a lot of times our reservists don't they feel like they're a lot of times people may serve active duty and then stay in as a reservist. And so the reserves are still considered a part of the military, even though it's more on a part-time basis. And so it can be a challenge because they're navigating the civilian world also with the military world a lot more than people that are active duty. And active duty, what that means is that they're full time. You're wearing your uniform every day. You're living and walking the walk and talk every single day, and that could mean a variety of different things. The reserve units are all over, and there are times like I know there's a military spouse I was working with and her husband is in the reserves, but there's often times if they want to get a promotion or something, they have to move as well. They can't just stay in their own state. Typically, people that stay local in their state are going to be National Guard. That is the original intent, but we know because the military has shrunk so much is that they just pull the resources from wherever they can get them. And so that's why you see National Guard being deployed to like Afghanistan and other areas of conflict that are a bit different. So not everyone in the military is infantry. And so this, like I was a chaplain's assistant. My husband Shane was a mechanic. A better question to ask is, what did you do during your service? What was your job? And then just let them talk. I think this happens a lot with employers as I talk to them and I'm trying to help facilitate these connections so our veterans can gain meaningful employment with these employers. However, they may have had an experience in the past where all they knew were people that had been in the infantry. The military is just like any kind of it's like its own military, it's its own society, and it has, just like how you have uh cooks, cleaners, waiter, like not really waiter, but actually, like you think about just the how an organization may be set up, a lot of those things are also going to be there. A job that my grandfather held was finance at one time. And so you don't think of that. You don't think of, oh, an accountant in the military? Yep, they got them too. They have everything, just like any other kind of workplace would as well. So we do have leaders at every level of chain of command, and I know we're familiar with that concept. Um, Whenever like we're young, I mentioned I was in my 20s and I had pretty big responsibility. I was over a program running a budget and I was only 20 years old. And when I think of back at that, I'm like, wow, I really got put in a level of leadership that a lot of people don't experience until they're mid-level in their career. But it's like they just, because you're changing so often, is that they just need people to do the work. And so they're like it I often say that the military is the greatest apprenticeship program in the world, and it really does help grow and develop leaders at all different levels. You can be a squad leader, you can be a leader over a program, you can progress through the ranks and lead troops. It's just all that. You're really just responsibility. You're responsible to just yourself, if not just yourself, but so many other people. And we're always on duty. When military members are serving, even the reserves, they kind of have a short timeline that they would need to react if they were called for service. Whenever Shane and I were planning our wedding, Saddam Hussein was misbehaving. It was, I'm dating us a little bit, but he was misbehaving, and they were like, we met at a unit that was rapid deployment, and so we knew have we may get a call and have to go somewhere. And so I was on call to go to Iraq or wherever, and they were just like, "Well, you're on alert. So basically, you need to have a packed bag, be ready to go, and within an hour or two's time." And so I'm supposed to fly to Salt Lake and get married. And I'm just like, I'll get on myself. But instead, we, they allowed me to go, but with a caveat that I needed to be able to get on a plane very quickly if I got a phone call. And so, yay, it all worked out. And here we are many years later. But, even if you're on vacation or you're planning a wedding or something like that, you can get that call of duty and you got to go because that's your job. And so it can be very disruptive as well, too. And then we take pride in our appearance and our conduct. Whenever you look at, they have relaxed the styles of the uniforms over the years, but it is very important that uniform that they wear is in compliance. And that's a very big thing for people in the military. They also, you gotta have a nice haircut, you gotta look nice, clean, and tight. And so we do have high standards for ourselves, and not only in what we do, but how we present and appear. And so it's, when we get out, it's a little less stringent, but I do have to be like, I'm always the best dressed person at work, it seems like. And I'm like, oh, I need to tone it down. But I can't help myself. It's just ingrained in you. And so you may see it the other way. I know there's a lot of veterans that I meet through the VA and just other veterans through different organizations that they're very, very proud of the very long, long beards that they have. And I think that's just kind of that, and even that is intentional. They want to have that long hair. They want to have it grown out. I think sometimes they have their reasons, and we'll just leave that up to speculation. But everything is very much intentional. This is a question that some veterans are much more I guess tactful if they get asked this question, but we didn't all kill someone. And those who did really probably don't want to talk about that publicly. Now, if you're in, like in a treatment setting, obviously those are questions that you may go into, but there's some better questions to ask. And so whenever we're talking to people, like especially the younger generations, because they just think the guns and this and that, and they just see the Hollywood hearsay and headlines. And so it's very important that we kind of just, hey, that's not appropriate. Let's figure out a different way to share information, but that's not a question that we really want to have asked of us ever. And we do not all have PTS. Many veterans have been through a lot. And I know a married couple that served in Afghanistan together, and they were in the same place at the same time. The the husband has very severe PTS, but his wife doesn't. They were same place, same time, but it just, everybody's unique and dynamic. And so to think, oh, well, they were all there together, she probably has it too. Well, there's a link, it's likely because of the situation, but it doesn't mean that it's always true. And so it's important to just, come in curious, ask questions. A lot of people may have symptoms. Some may experience some post-traumatic growth that, there's all kinds of things. But most veterans, including the combat veterans, don't always develop that condition. And if that, and I said condition, if that's not the appropriate word, my apologies. And so there are us who have invisible wounds, and we may have PTS. So maybe we do. Traumatic brain injury is definitely more common than it has been, and depression and substance abuse. These are just some of the invisible wounds that veterans may have, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they're violent. It just means they have a challenge that they need to overcome. And so while it's not always obvious, we do give them the same respect as any physical injury that anyone would have. It's holistic health. And this one, it is really hard for us to ask for help. This one's a challenge for me because I'm not only an Army veteran, but I'm also a Gen Xer. And so, I was used to being self-sufficient and had single mom, and, I had the key and I made my own food and did all my own things. And so it is very hard for veterans to ask for help. There's a lot of the culture is based in, it's service, sacrifice, and helping others. It's more that outward mindset where you're constantly thinking about, okay, how do we help everyone get through this certain thing, or how do we bring everyone along? And so it's an others based type thing, and it's very much gets in our way when we need help. And our military service changes us. It's I mean, to go through years of an experience to say that it's not going to change somebody is just, that's not accurate. And so it is unreasonable to think that we would go through all of these different things and still be the exact same person. I say this often. I say life happens, and there are things that we experience in life that affect us in different ways. And so the military obviously does that as well. So we often differ with how we identify with the military after we leave active duty. And here's some good questions that you can ask. How has your military services shaped you? Or how does it factor into how you define yourself now? And I really like that question because, whenever I was getting out of the military, it was a hard time. My brother had gotten in an accident, and I was all this different stuff. My boss was harassing me, and I was asking for a hardship discharge. And it was so I basically, once they approved, we went, Shane and I, we had to go through this big, harassment meeting. I made him come with me because I needed his muscle a little bit. And when I got out, we basically, once my hardship was approved, And it was for my brother had gotten in an accident, and so I was going to go back and help take care of him. But with all that going on, when I got out, I was like, no way am I going to do anything with the military ever again. And here I am eating the words, right? Um, because at that time, I just wanted to be identified as a mom, a wife, you know, and and wanted to kind of get back to, civilian life similar to what it was before the military. Now you're going to have people that get out of the military that are going to be exactly the opposite. They're going to want to, uh, they're often, I say I have a lot of veterans that I work with that still stand at attention when they talk. And they're always like, yes, ma'am. No, sir. Affirmative, And so you're like, that's not real world talk. Let's help you. And so, but that's how they identify. That helps them get through that transition. I say this a lot, there's, change can happen, but your mental transition from one thing to another can take some time. And so you'll have people that are very much like wearing that veteran hat, wearing the that you definitely, there's no questioning their association with the military and that they're a veteran. And then our families serve with us. My mom was my favorite dandelion or brat or brat would be the appropriate term here, right? I love it. I love it. um, but Shane, I dragged him. Oh, the poor guy had to go live in Germany for close to 3 years, and and get to enjoy that kind of life. But it's not for everyone, and it's challenging at times because uh, you can feel a little isolated at times. There's just the different challenges that the families have because, they're not the ones who volunteered. They volunteered to fall in love with a certain person that's bringing them around the world. And so um, I can't say enough good things about military families. And every military spouse that I've ever worked with and hired has been just so wonderful. And so I hope that you would have the same experience as well. And then 14, we it becomes such a culture, it's a community, and unlike no other. I mean, you have battle buddies. And when we say you're a battle buddy, that means like you literally are going to be there to back me up and possibly have to help save my life from something. And so we do, and we would die for each other. And we have answered the call to say we would die for our country. And so it's what we do. This is just a picture from we did a Sisters in Service event at the Utah State Capitol. And so that's me. You can see my amazing boots are in there too. So uh, but it was a great time. And that was one of those things where I'm a serial volunteer, where I just kept bugging them till I was like, put me on the dang committee. We need to do something. We need to do it nice. We need to do it well. And so there we go. Still a culture of serving others. And then last but not least of the 15, we've all made this sacrifice for one reason. It's to serve something larger than ourselves, and something more important than who just us. And so we it's a big sacrifice that we make. And we know, maybe when you first sign the sign the dotted line, you're thinking, oh, I'm just gonna go and get away from home and this and that. You're looking at all the benefits, and then once you're kind of looking back, you're like, wow, but it was so much more than that. And so it really is a big thing. I would say I'm a very, I can't, anytime I see anything, American flag, anything, I'm just gonna go, America, and I have this affinity for eagles, and yeah, it's just one of those goofy fun things. But the key takeaway is that, out of these, we've got 15 good questions that you can draw from, and asking those right questions and wording them in a certain way is going to help you build credibility and open the door to understanding to create those meaningful conversations where it's not just a superficial conversation. Maybe people, as they feel more open and you feel that you're being authentically curious, they're going to share more with you, and you're going to share more with them. It's just like any other relationship. You just navigate a little bit differently because, well, now I've dispelled some myths for you, so now you're going to be really great at it, right? So, but it is a complicated culture, and you know what I say, do your best. You're going to make mistakes, and that's okay. If you learn from those mistakes and you move on, then you'll be just fine. And just like earlier, I said something and I was like, well, I'm not sure, but if I said that, my apologies. So there is a program that this was ran through. It's the Military Community at Work. It's through the it's the SHRM or organization. I know, an acronym, I'm telling you. There should be a swear jar, right? But with SHRM, it's the Society of Human Resources Management. And so they have a foundation, like most organizations do, that does research and does different programs. And so they've been doing this Military Community at Work, I think since 2019. It had just started right before I had started my role. And so I've actually been part of it since 2020. And I'm actually a military community ambassador. You can kind of see my little badge here. But this is part of the things that I went, the things that I went through to earn that certification and to be able to become a military ambassador. So, obviously being an Army veteran wasn't enough. I had to go through this too. And it is a really great program, and it is completely free. If you have friends that work in human resources, it also gives them recertification credit. And I guess if you got creative enough, it possibly could be recertification credit for other things as well. I just say, if you don't know unless you try. And then here's another great resource, is Psych Armor. I hope you have heard of this before. There are so many different great little snippets, videos, programs that Psych Armor offers that can help build military and community competencies for you. So you can understand the culture. And as you're interacting with veterans, that's going to help you be able to have those conversations easier. And I love it. And as I've mentioned, I say come in curious quite often, and it really does. The simple truth is that everybody's unique and dynamic. And so, like, my husband could have been up here telling his story, and he would bring up examples and different things that would be very different. But just get to know people and understand their stories. Trust me, veterans like to talk and tell their stories in the right environment. And so, if they just know you care, you're starting off on the right foot right away. And then this is my contact information. So we're getting toward, let's see where are we at on time? Oh, good. We'll have some time for questions. So I'm in the process of founding my own company called Duckworthy, because you got to have a play. It's going to be fun. And then just a little more of the things that I had mentioned. If you want to be in touch with me, the LinkedIn is probably the best way to get in touch with me. We're still working on the website for the other things. But if you go on LinkedIn, look for Lisa D and the duck emoji, and you'll find me. And then I'm going to open it to questions, but I just want to share this information too. So I've been nominated by Military Friendly to be Veteran of the Year. There's a whole lot of other veterans on there as well. And so, but if you'd like to vote for me, I'd love your vote. You just go to Military Friendly. I think it's, whoops. Oh, I didn't. Oh, there it is. Anyway, it's you just go to militaryfriendly.com and /vote, and then it'll just pull up all the veterans that have been nominated, and just look for the duck and you'll find me. So that concludes my part of this. What questions do we have? You're all experts. Are you going to work me out of a job? Anyone online have any questions or? Yeah. I know it's a long day. I know. I was like, oh. I know. I was looking. I'm like, what time? Oh boy. I gotta be- Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Questions, comments, anything. I am open.
My name's David.
Hi,
I
David.
came really out of personal interest. Two or three good friends of mine are veterans.
Mhm.
Two of them have really struggled with a lot of health issues, mental health issues.
Mhm.
And so I work with college students with physical disabilities. So really here again, just more on a personal level than professional. But so first of all, thank you for your service to our country. And I
You're
just
welcome.
wanted to say that you really demystified, the experience that I often have had questions about, but didn't know how to approach, didn't know, can I bring this up? Is it okay to ask about this? And didn't really know how to even word those questions. So again, that might be very common for you, and you may hear this feedback all the time, but this really just sort of reset the compass for me. And I just want to thank you for giving me new tools and new framework. And I think increased interest in raising some questions and having those
Yes.
conversations, maybe now that I feel more comfortable knowing perhaps how to do it in ways that hopefully will be more comfortable for them. So just a big thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. And that's exactly why I did this. So thank you. That's very, very great feedback for me to hear. Um, yeah, I think, well, and check out some of those other resources I mentioned. There's other ones.
I do
Yes.
have a question from online if you have a
Awesome.
second.
Absolutely.
Someone is asking, can you share latest tips slash suggestions for helping someone get a job after leaving the military?
Oh, yes, I can.
And
Yeah,
perhaps too, if I
Yeah.
think at some point you had your information up.
I did. Yeah.
Um,
I don't know.
let's see, could you try to help her? Is that
Let's
I
see.
it seems like that would be
Play from current slide, maybe?
a there we go. Thank you so much.
guess you better-
Perhaps that seems like it would warrant perhaps some email correspondence as well.
It can. I mean, I can do a quick overview because that is what I call my paying job. And I had to be, because I do work for the state of Utah, I have to be, like make sure there's a distinct separation of what I do for Utah SHRM versus the state of Utah. However, my role is part of a Department of Labor vets program. And so Department of Labor, and then it's Veterans Employment and Training. Oh, acronyms get me every time, but it's, yeah, yeah. So so it's part of this plan, a program. So and this is how it stands currently. A lot of things are changing in federal government, especially that possibly could impact at a state level. But every state has representatives through this Department of Labor Vets program that are, they call them Jobs for Veterans State Grants. And so I'm the one and only local veteran employer representative for the state of Utah that does it full time. And then I have other staff that work in your American Job Centers, every state calls them a little different. And so I guess the national name is American Job Center, but there's also, let's see. In Utah, we call it Department of Workforce Services. And if you're, some people, they go, oh, it's a welfare office, but it's really, the way I look at it is those are the kitchen sink of resources. And so they're going to be able to get everything they need. But what we have is we have staff that work in those centers. And so anybody can go into an American Job Center. And those are sponsored also through the Department of Labor, and they can get information and get one-on-one services. We help people navigate employment barriers, as something as simple as writing a resume to interviewing, to being able to navigate a disability so they can be really job ready. Because we don't want to help try to facilitate a connection and that's not going to be beneficial for both the employer and the veteran themselves. And we also work with spouses as well. And so we do this, and it's a national program, and it's really good. There's sometimes some veteran, I know a lot of non-for-profits. You can't Google it without hitting like 10,000 hits. The hard thing is knowing, because there are some that are really great on a national level, but in your state, they could be really great, or they may need maybe they're not quite as established. And so I find that like in my state, in Utah, there's some programs that are amazing nationally, but in our state, they just haven't quite grabbed a foothold and really been that effective. But other things, obviously there's many great people doing great work. USO does things, American Legion, the Disabled American Veterans, a lot of different groups have different programs and stuff where they'll also help as well. But of course, I'm going to be like a little partial to the one that I'm part of. It's a long answer for but there's so many, yeah. And I know there's some websites. There's Hiring Our Heroes. Yeah. There's a lot of different ones, yeah. Any more questions? Comments? I know I was like, I guess I got a little fast there. Sorry. You're like, we're good with that. It's been a long day. You're welcome.